Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 153 of TDI. This is Dr. O. On the horn to start per usual. We're here to talk some dragons, here to talk some fire, here to talk some sibling rivalries, and we're here to talk about some future eye patches. So I would like to welcome in my co-host, my best friend, Game of Thrones aficionado, Ricky Flex. How are you, sir? You ready to talk? Valarians, are you ready to talk? Targaryens, are you ready to talk? High Towers, the whole shebang. Everyone got together this episode.
This was quite the episode to round out the weekend. Yeah, you knew some crazy stuff was going to happen based on the last episode and then the preview, but I just totally forgot about Aemon losing an eye. I forgot about that until the fight happened. I'm like, oh, this is how he's going to lose the eye, and everything that ensued. Like after that was pretty much like you didn't know what was going to happen. I love that.
Yeah, I like the unpredictability as well, especially like that final reveal at the end of the episode, which we will get to. And just a heads up for all the listeners, this is a spoiler reaction episode, so we're going to be talking about all the happenings and all the shock factor that we got during episode 7. So where we left off, we met the children, we met Alicent and Viserys' kids as they're growing up, Aemond and Aegon particularly, and then we also looked at what was apparently Laenor and Rhaenyra's children, but we know that Rhaenyra's really having those kids with someone that she has grown a passion for over the years, which was Harwin Strong. Unfortunately, Harwin Strong was killed at the end of the last episode, along with the former hand, Lionel, after Larys takes it upon himself to burn them alive, right, for Alicent, hoping for something in return later. He is now the head of the Harrenhal house, I believe, right? He's the head of Harrenhal. So he's now taken up that mantle. He's gotten at least something, right, in return for his actions at the end of last episode. Lena, we had committing suicide by dragonfire, a very creative way, I guess, to like end one's life after the problematic, I want to say pregnancy that she had with Daemon's child. And that leads us into this episode. So, Ricky Flex, initial reactions to the happenings here in episode 7.
We finally got it. Daemon and Rhaenyra officially together. That's the key takeaway for me. It's been teased throughout this season. We finally got it. The whole shebang. No more teasing around. It's fire and fire. And this is where you're picking a side. Your team green or team black or whatever you want to use color, like for the Targaryens, whatever it is. Like this is when the House of the Dragon actually begins. This war is coming. And these kids are officially going to be a part of it now. And we saw the teaser for the next episode too. Aemon looks like he's just going to continue this villainous path. He has the biggest dragon in the world behind him now. He has that villain Daemon-like fire behind him as well. He's going to be a huge player to come here. Not the, like, Aegon's like kind of like the, what's it called? Like, I don't know what the word is, but like, you know, he's like the first in line, but he's a loser, you know?
Yeah.
But Aemon's the interesting one where he won't be king. So it's interesting to see like how that character, he's the Daemon where it's like, okay, like he's got to do something else. And they're going to say, oh, eye patch villain.
And it seems like Aemond is the one who is what Alicent wants Aegon to be, one who takes his duties and responsibilities seriously enough where he could be a future ruler, but he's not in the first line of succession here, right? Obviously, just not even their family that's coming next. It's with Rhaenyra, and now we have her wedding Daemon and purifying the bloodline potentially of the Targaryens, much it could be like it's to the dismay of Viserys, but also he's like, I guess the family's staying together in some regard, and then also you're gonna get the children that look like they are Targaryens as opposed to these quote unquote bastard children, as said by Aemond during this episode.
Aemond.
But yeah, so Aemond, like he's really we kind of got like a little bit of like school shooter vibes from him in the first episode, and we were like, this guy. Still, maybe that was a little too much, but he was like the kind of the outlier with the compared to the other kids. He didn't have his own dragon, but we see him here stealing Lena's former dragon, Vagar. Vagar seems like it's just like he's the beast. Like he is the best of the best. He is the premier dragon. And then Aemon said, you know what? If like no one, I'm just gonna go take a dragon rather than waiting for the dragon to come to me. Savage move on the night of Lena's funeral. And like the just like no one gives a crap like that someone dies, and like there's so much greed and selfishness here, but all like everyone's focusing on is the power dynamics, the politics behind it all, right? Even Corlys like reflecting on his daughter's death, like you have Rhaenys basically criticizing him, saying all you can think about is the throne, and that ultimately could be the reason why Lena is dead in the first place. So I thought the funeral was an interesting setting here. I don't know if you felt the same thing. I don't know if it was my TV. I know this episode had a very dark tone to it, but it also just legitimately looked like literally dark on my screen. Did you like ever have to like rewind it all this episode and be like, well, did I see that right? Like there were some things I was just questioning, like, wait, did Aemon see like Rhaenyra and Daemon, or did like I couldn't see sometimes what other characters were seeing just because of the darkness. I felt like I was watching season 8 again with the battle against the White Walkers.
I was gonna say the same thing. That was one of the key points I wanted to highlight. This episode was just dark, and yeah, it's a dark episode, as in like the actual themes and what played out here, and yeah, the results of this episode. But yeah, we don't want a season 8 battle with the White Walkers 2.0. So as long as they don't do this in a battle scene again, fine. But let's maybe lighten it up a little bit. I know there's no lights. We rely on candles and fires, but let's lighten it up a little bit.
Like this wedding, the dynamics that we were seeing like during it was, first of all, Otto's back. You see him having like the pin of the hand, right? Him clutching it. He's officially here, right? And returning after one episode hiatus. Great to have him back. Rhys Ifans, welcome back to Thrones. I didn't necessarily love him in this episode, and we'll get to that and his interaction, his major conversation with Alicent following Alicent's egregious acts against Rhaenyra in the middle of this episode. So Otto's back. You have Daemon, who basically is he's mourning the loss of Lena, and he did have passion towards her. He didn't love her as much as he loves like obviously Rhaenyra, but like even he's separated himself. He planned on living in Pentos before Rhaenyra came to him, wanting to get married and unite their families. Like seeing him here, like he just had no interest in joining, right? His father, his brother Viserys offers for him to go back to King's Landing because Viserys just wants to make sure and pretend like nothing bad has happened in the past like 15 years, you know? So Daemon, he like laughs at the idea when during the ceremony they're talking about how like thick Valyrian blood is, how pure it is. And he just laughs it off because he's looking around and seeing all these different looking people, and it looks in no way like they're a family. And it's interesting because that ends up becoming, right, the centerpiece of this episode, where these kids even acknowledge we aren't really related. Like we don't have a strong connection with one another. And it really boiled over. And it's just funny how this whole war is probably going to like, it's bubbling right now, very much close to like actually ascending into full on warfare, house versus house, right? With the major Game of Thrones battles that we're used to. But it starts with like a kid's fight, like on the day of a funeral. Like it's just to me, it was like kind of weird almost that we got like that kid's fight that's gonna like spoil over into like the major Game of Thrones battles that we know. What do you think of the kids here?
The kids, the kid fight was expected it to be, but I really just pissed off a little bit. Like I don't know, I don't know. I just don't love it, but it was better than I thought it was gonna be. But
it's annoying. It's kind of annoying to watch. I was like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get to the adults.
Yeah, let the big boys play now.
Yeah,
right?
but
let the big kids
it's
play.
over. We're not going to be seeing these kids again. Like it's going to be another time jump and new actors playing.
The last one, I believe, the last time jump for a while.
Yeah, so it's over. Now, I do want to mention. You also mentioned how like Alicent was like Eamon's like what Alicent wants Aegon to be.
Yeah.
And it was just like so awesome how the end of the bickle, the banter, like argument and huge event
You say
was
bickle, like you mean bickering? Is that what you're
yeah,
trying to
bickering. Yeah.
say?
It's been a long weekend. You can't
We're
tell
used
by
to
my voice. Um,
that.
the bickering, what ended the bickering was Aemon saying, "Oh, it was a fair exchange, an eye for a dragon." Like
Savage.
that ended the whole thing. Him just saying that. That was like a statement to me. That was big. And then freaking Risa Fon's hand comes in later and says, like, the kid is right. Like, goddamn, like, we got lucky here. Like, we are ready to go. Now we got the best weapon in all of Westeros at our disposal. Like, this is insane. So at the end of the day, like, this is probably the boiling point where, yep, war is about to happen now. And they are in like the driver's seat. That's why the Damon marriage is so crucial. You're officially on their side, and Damon's just a powerful right hand man versus Eleanor, who is trying to find his identity. Like it wasn't a good husband, wasn't a good father, couldn't fight. He was last episode. He was saying how he wanted to go off to battle again, so he didn't really have an identity right now. And then here in this episode, towards the end, he tells Rhaenyra, "No, I want to be a good father and husband now." I'm trying to find his identity, and then Rhaenyra's like, "Yeah, not with me though. Like not with me. You're dying." Even though we obviously know he didn't.
It's crazy how much Laenor's been through these last 3 episodes. Because like my notes when I was listening to him speak with Rhaenyra, I was like, it's just sad. He's like pathetic, but also I'm just not sympathetic enough to his character. Like he's lost his lover Joffrey, right? He's basically Harwin is having the kids that he's supposed to be having with Rhaenyra. Right, he can't have kids with Rhaenyra, and then he has to deal with the loss of his sister. So it just seems like the whole world is crumbling down on him right now, and he might be sad and pathetic, but he's about to go on a journey, I think, where he's going to become like on a path to redemption, right? And as you said, like finding an identity for himself. And I want to see like what's the power play for him later on? Like how does he come back into the picture here? How does he come back into the fold? Because he's not going to be staying away forever. There's too much on the line, right? For like his like House Velaryon, and you see like Corlys at the preview for next episode gearing up for war. And so I'm fascinated to see where his character goes, because let's just skip to it because we're on conversation. I know we're bouncing around here. So Rhaenyra hints at like to Daemon that Laenor has to die, or at least presumed to die. It has to be presumed that he's dead in order for Daemon to marry Rhaenyra, right? It can't be like a situation where she's having babies like with Daemon, and it's like the same thing with Harwin. It's been too much of a messy situation. Can't happen again. So Laenor has to go. And so they have this plot that happens. Daemon takes out this dude. Uh, Lord Carl, right? It's Carl with a Q, is sent to go take care of Laenor, and they have this whole plot where they like fake this battle. The guy that Daemon took out, gets thrown into the fire, and at the end of the episode, right, everyone, like obviously Corlys freaking out, saying, "How can you let this happen in my hall? Kill my son on the same day that we have a funeral for my daughter." Imagine that. Like they're going through hell right now too. Like House Velaryon is in such a shit show right now. Crazy. But we see Carl and Laenor with a buzz cut, badass looking dude, giving me like Grey Worm vibes as he is pulling away on the boat. It has me jacked, like to see like, okay, this is a classic like weakling, that a guy who appears like at rock bottom here, but is about to go on a journey through the end of season 1 and probably into the future. So what are your thoughts on Laenor here and him surviving, right, this fake assassination?
The fake assassination wasn't good enough for me.
It got
I
me. It got me.
like I was just like, what? Like I don't know. It didn't do enough for me. I just didn't believe it.
But but sorry, I'm interjecting just because I was thinking about it a lot at the end. Like Rhaenyra really does care for him. Like I don't think she wanted to kill him, right? But she wants to send him away. The path to the sea, right? He is like a member of House Velaryon, right? And the sea snake is his father. Like she just didn't want to kill him because he means a lot to Rhaenyra, even if like they aren't lovers, right? They just have this compatibility where she's willing to forgive him for whatever he does, you know? And it's it's interesting because Damon would old Damon wouldn't care, right? Old Damon would be like, I'm just gonna kill this dude because it's probably best, like if he's not around. But he's doing this for Rhaenyra, which kind of shows also like Damon is a changed person as well. Like he's not even all in on the marriage at first until Rhaenyra has to break it down for him, saying like, hey, like I know it could be dangerous with us, like with this like power of fire, right? But if we burn it all down, we're going to do it together. And we're just going like we have the best chance at ascending to the throne here when they're together. So interesting.
Yeah, I got to cover a few points here. One with Damon. So there's like some over the past week since last episode, there's been some leaked, deleted scenes of him like being like a caring father and like a good father,
Mm-hmm.
and like very distraught over the death of his wife at the time. So clearly, like they cut that from the cut that we're seeing like last week, and it's still we still know Damon as like maybe he doesn't care that his second wife died, like but he does, and he's actually a good
Yes.
father. He's there, and I think that it's like kind of weird how now he's like, yeah, he's a changed man. This episode, now, I think he was a changed man once he got the second marriage. I just think that they're not showing everything just because of timing and then what they want us to perceive. But like, I just don't agree, I guess, necessarily with everything because I think it just would show and make more sense connecting to this episode. And then going back to the fake assassination. So I just didn't believe like I just didn't work for me at all really because
Gotcha.
why did Damon go to Carl and be like quick death? Yeah, that makes sense. Like Lanor is like nothing against you, Lanor from Rhaenyra's side, like quick death, like whatever. But like Damon doesn't follow through with that because he's the one that takes out the guy and burns the guy then, right? And he's like, "Oh, so he's not a quick death. You're not killing him at all." And you know that. You're a part of that. So I don't get that at all. It just doesn't work at all for
Oh, I
me.
see. Yeah, you're right. Like maybe he was talking about something that's going over my head, to be honest, like a quick death. He does mention the idea of taking Lanor to like not Lanor, excuse me. Carl has the opportunity where a name doesn't matter, and then you presume he's talking about Carl, but he might be talking about Lanor in that situation where like no one's going to hear about Lanor when he goes into the high seas. You know what I mean? So he talks about the quick death, but he also talks about the idea of everyone forgets who you are, right? Titles don't matter, names don't matter. So maybe he was talking about that he's going to go, but so is Lanor. Like Lanor is on the way out as well, but it doesn't
Right.
explain the
But
quick
why
death.
even
Yeah,
mention quick death? Like, why do that? Why have this big
because
reveal?
maybe because it's like presumed that he's dead. That's why he's saying it. You know, like quick
Yeah.
death and like okay, yeah, this is gonna like be a thing
I think it
for a
throws you
bit.
off. And not in a good way throws you off. I think I didn't like that.
Yeah,
And
it could have been worded better for sure.
but I am interested to see, like again, Carl and Lanor, they're both great knights, and they're gonna find like they're finding like Carl knows who he is, but Lanor, he is the heir to the like Valerian's with I forget what they call it, but
King
that
consort,
well, yeah, but I mean no, he's the heir to Corlys, like where
House
Corlys is.
Valarian.
Yeah, but like I forget what they call it, but where they are, they're situated. Like Dragonstone, like
Mm-hmm.
I forget what they call it, but he's heir to that. So my thinking is he's going to find his identity, get back to being a knight and everything. And then when there's wars at its peak, and maybe Corlys dies or passes away, comes back and like takes that throne and has his effect on the war.
But what side is he going to be fighting on?
You would
Which
probably
is
pick Alicent maybe, or he was like, "Oh, nothing, Rhaenyra, like thank you." Maybe he's like thankful. I'll come back and fight for you as well and help you. It could be
because I
either
don't think
way.
he wouldn't be able to fight on his father's side, right? Because like he faked his death and it's going to lead to war. If he shows up in the war, it's going to be like, what the hell?
No,
we,
that's
we
okay. This is what I'm saying. So
No,
he's like,
I'm saying it wouldn't. It just couldn't be his side. Like he wouldn't be. It would never be with. I'm ruling it out.
I know, but I'm bringing it back in because imagine him coming back. His dad's already dead, so he is the heir. He's the
Oh, that's
firstborn.
good.
He's the
Hmm.
firstborn. He would take it all, and he would own the sea. He would own the sea, and like the second, besides Targaryens, are the second most powerful house in Westeros. So he brings all his allies, and then he picks either Rhaenyra or Alicent, right? It's either F you Rhaenyra, like I don't think this is the case, but F you Rhaenyra, I'm joining Alicent, and then turn the tide of the war towards them, or it's like, oh, I'm coming back, and Rhaenyra, you let me free, like you let me like do whatever I wanted, whatever, find myself, and I'm gonna, since we always had a good relationship, we always understood each other, I'm gonna come help you and finish this war. So I think that's like the potential. Why else like keep him, like keep the story alive? We would have just killed him if we weren't gonna have something major come in the future with this character.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting because like I wasn't because like they show the body that's burned at the end, and we're presuming that it was Laenor, or maybe it was even Carl at that point. We weren't sure because the body's burned. I kept thinking at the end of last episode, like maybe Harwin is still alive. We don't actually see Harwin. Like we presume it's him, but we're not confirmed that it's his body. I kept like holding out hope. Like everyone is just assuming he's dead, but maybe he somehow is alive because it's almost like that. It's like that classic trope. Like, did we see the body? You know, did we see the body at the end? Can we confirm that he is totally done? Just like Laenor, we couldn't confirm that that was him. And guess what? We see him with a buzz cut, right? Rowing a boat with Carl at the end of the episode, you know? So I just kind of held out that hope for Harwin that maybe they would like pay him that he's actually still alive, right? Maybe Lionel's gone still. Maybe he's still in Harrenhal and he's looking to get revenge on his brother. I held out hope for a little bit.
He was creepy this episode, by the way.
Which
Way
one?
too creepy.
Laris?
Yeah, way too creepy.
Dude, like at the end when he's talking with Alicent, it's very much I think is looking like this is where my comparisons to Ramsay Bolton I think are becoming more and more accurate because he obviously we already talked about the physical differences and like how he's feeble compared to like Ramsay Bolton who's more physically capable, but he is like finds enjoyment in hurting others. And he is seeking out, right? That's the way he views that he can help Alicent is like sneakily hurting people behind the background. And he's like not being asked to do so. He is just coming up with ideas, right? In ways that he can serve the queen in the most messed up way possible. Like, was he going to kill Lucerys? Like, what was he gonna poison this kid? Like, or take the eye himself? Like, he's like, yes, justice needs to be served. You are right, Alicent. I mean, your wish is my command, even if you don't tell me to do anything. And she's like, okay, good, dude. I'm glad you're in my back pocket, but just get away from me. You're creeping me the hell out.
Exactly. It was creepy. This actor did a great job this episode being creepy. And Kristen Cole again is like, he's been staring at you this entire time. And and the camera pans to him in the corner, literally
So
staring.
creepy.
And not even like when like the queen looks, it's like, hey, stop looking at me. He like intently like more passionately looks after that. It's so weird. So weird.
He's such a he's a character. Like even in this setting where you have Otto coming back, right? You have like even like Kristen Cole and Damon like getting into it for a second, where it's like hints at the first episode we saw, and you have all these different dynamics going on. Even at the funeral, I still like I'm looking in the background to see what Laris is doing because like I just got to see where he's looking. He's that Littlefinger. He is that Lord Varys that is constantly scheming, and like I wouldn't put it past it if he does something without Rhaenyra's permission again, looking for more approval from her. Like it just seems like what did I say, Rhaenyra?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like doing something to approve, like have Alicent like say, okay, good job, pat on the back. Let's go torture like 10 more people, just like rip out their tongues and like rip out their eyes and burn them alive. Just constantly someone you have to keep your eye on, which we will in the future. I do want to go into Aemon a little bit because this is not the character I kind of assume was going to ascend to the position he was. We didn't really get into the details of the fight and then leading into the Alicent versus Rhaenyra conflict that happens in the middle of the episode. But Aemon just going up to the dragon, jumping on, right, is somehow able, right, to calm down Vagar. What's his name again? Vagar. So he's able to calm Vagar down, and Vagar's going through mourning as well. Like we know these dragons take on these like human personas or dogs, even like their connections with humans. And yet, right after a funeral, he's able to connect with Vagar. it almost seems like, yeah, maybe he should have this dragon because he has a natural connection to it. If we were able to do that and jump on Dragonback the day that like its rider has her funeral, it's pretty impressive. And I did like Aemon throughout that whole journey. I didn't think about the repercussions of what he was doing and how he's going to claim the dragon. But I quickly went from like, hey, this is kind of cool. How he's like on top of this dragon and then he's killing it. But then when he confronts the kids, I'm like, okay, he's kind of a dick. I very mixed emotions about this character. But like seeing what he's going to grow into, this guy I think is going to be a savage. I really do.
I'm saying. That's what I was saying before.
And when we look at
Daemon, he's going to be Daemon.
Yeah, and then when we look at Aegon, right, in opposition, like Aegon is the worst, dude. Like he is like getting like passed out drunk, right, at Lena's funeral, and then Otto just kicking him. I'm like, good. Like that's the part of Otto. I'm like, okay, this guy, he gets it. He notices like this guy's not ready to lead. Allison can't really control him yet. Maybe now that Otto's back, he's gonna like whip him into shape a little bit. But he also seems like someone that really can't be controlled. Aemon just gets it. Like I think I could see him and Otto just hitting it off and then becoming boys. You know, I just see that.
It's literally the same thing as Sirius and Daemon. Sirius is older. He was in line for the crown, or we all know the story there now. But he's not a good king. He's not a strong king. He's not feared. But Daemon, like he lives up to the fire for the Targaryen, right? Like he brings the fire. He's he's feared. Like he will bring the fire, and he would be feared if he ever did ascend to the Iron Throne because he's just unpredictable. In addition to just violent and cruel, just cruel. And Aemon clearly now with the biggest and baddest dragon behind him, he's like, all right, he's making this turn. He's making this turn, and now without an eye, he has he's not just cruel, but he's no longer going to get bullied because he has. It's similar to like Deadpool 2 when like Fire Fist or whatever gets Colossus. It's like, oh, you're not going to bully that guy anymore because you have that guy behind him. Like, same thing with the dragon, and Aemon knows that. He's like, I'm never going to get bullied again. A Juggernaut, sorry, I said Colossus. A Juggernaut behind him. It's like he's not going to get bullied again. No pigs are going to be given to him. Like he has.
He makes the joke to the other bastard kids, to Lena's kids, and Daemon's kids. Like he's getting cocky with it now. He's like, I have a dragon. Like you're getting the pigs now. Joke's on you. And that was a really interesting moment because like, first of all, it's like middle of the night of a funeral. Like and all these kids are just on the loose. Like how does no one recognize
a dragon flying and coming back and landing makes some noise?
But isn't no one like they try and cover their tracks a little bit because Kristen Cole's like no one's ever asked to watch, like it's no King's God watches like the children or whatever. But like to me it's like, dude, like these are potential successors to the throne and you're just not looking after them, and you already have enough tension like among these kids in terms of like their birth and like their parents and who they are. It seems like it's a very hostile time, right, between these families. Why would you leave these kids on their own? Like these kids have knives. They're just whipping out knives. I'm just like, then Aemon takes the rock. I'm like Aemon's the type of kid, like he's like the kid who burns stuff, he's just gonna, like, if he has a rock in his hand threatening to hit, like it's just like this. I was thinking it could be game over for one of these kids.
I did have that thought cross my mind a couple of times with the rocks. I'm like, oh, something bad's gonna happen. Maybe a death. We might get a death, but no death yet.
Dirty play by throwing the dirt, by the way. It's such a dirty play. I think it's scumbag behavior. Can't be doing that in a fight.
I agree. I think the Night's Watch Kingsguard, they stand outside their rooms, so it makes no sense how they snuck out without a secret way out.
All of them. They're all out.
Yeah. So again, like there's holes like that throughout the show. I mentioned with the Daemon and Laenor death, fake assassination. It's just there's a few things like that, but at the end of the day, like you gotta create some controversy here. You gotta rub the sticks and stones together and make some fire.
Right, exactly. So you gotta sacrifice some of that storytelling, those like I guess those plot holes for the sake of like, okay, we're bringing that tension between the families. Also, like Dragonback, another like complaint I had, it looks so fake. It looked like him Aemon on back and he's hanging by like the
Yeah.
tassels on the dragon. I'm just okay. This is like where the CGI is not really coming through. It's not really pulling through.
The
Uh,
dragons look good. It's just that when they're on dragon back, it
they
looks
can't figure out
bad
the
there.
camera, dude. They can't figure
Yeah.
out what's the
And it was
best way for
dark.
them to
Also
look.
dark again.
Yes, dude. I had to rewind a couple times because there was a moment where like Aemon he was spying on Vagar. I was like, okay, he's gonna try and get to Vagar, but at the same time, you have Rhaenyra and Daemon
Yeah, I thought
like
he was
getting it on. I thought he was going to like witness
same.
this
I
and
same.
then tell like somebody right about
That's
this
what I
whole
thought was gonna
situation.
happen too. I forgot about the like I know what you didn't know Vagar was just hanging out at the beach. So like you couldn't have assumed that unless like you read the books or something and you knew that the night of the Lena's funeral, yeah, that's when Vagar goes to Aemon.
I
So
thought there was gonna be a moment where, like Aemon like coming back, like on his way back after witnessing this, like he tells Laris, and Laris is that he takes matters into his
yeah.
own hands and
But I
does
was thinking
whatever
though,
the hell he's thinking.
yeah, I was thinking like it didn't make sense for that. I was trying to think like what was he doing, and if it wasn't that, because he was running, so like he was constantly running, going down hills and stuff
It's
on
like,
the
I need that
beach.
dragon.
So I was like, oh, like it can't be him seeing that because he clearly he's doing something with ambition. Like he's has a goal, so he's clearly trying to get somewhere specific, and that's why the dragon made sense.
I think this is a natural progression. We go from like the dragon back stabbing in the eye to the big moment here with Allison versus Rhaenyra, right? Allison versus Rhaenyra. We got basically Allison calling for an eye of one of Rhaenyra's children. Okay, uh, they want to basically have justice served for what was done to Aemon. So, Ricky Bucks, I just want to get your impression because we have once again Allison wearing the green, Rhaenyra also calling out Allison for harming one of for one of her children, right? Potential successor to the throne. And she wants hell to pay. They both want hell to pay for one another, for what each of their kids and their actions. Then you have Viserys, who's in the background, who's kind of just like, oh, everybody just calm down. Let's just go back to bed and everything's going to be okay, pretending like nothing bad is happening and there is no tension within this family. So I just want to get your impressions on the Allison versus Rhaenyra here, because then we also get like, finally, Aegon does one thing that is kind of likable in this episode where he goes like, yeah, like everyone knows they're bastards. Like there's like you like Viserys, you're pretty much an idiot. Like you are so ignorant and so blind. You just don't want to admit they're bastards. And when he said that out loud, like the room just stopped and stood still. And I thought that was a very telling moment. But what was your impressions and your takeaways from this massive sequence?
Yeah, I don't think he's of a serious is ignorant. I just think he's just doesn't want to admit it because he's just like shameful. And again, like him is similar to Corliss, it's all about legacy and history, right? So he doesn't want to just admit that. So this was great because it kind of is like, oh, this is like the fan perspective, just like everyone's thinking it. How about we just talk about it? And it finally happened in like a show or movie. Like this is like the time it did. So it was great to see that. Very fun, made it a great atmosphere for a viewer. And a couple other things, like another thing was with when the Allison showdown with the knife, and Rhaenyra's like, now everyone like sees you for who you really are. That like such a great line, greatly, really well delivered,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like,
Good
damn,
acting.
that is what like that's the peak right there.
The Mad
That's
Queen?
awesome.
Mad Queen? That she even hinted at it when she was talking with Otto Hightower, Allison. Like she might be
Yeah.
considered like the new Mad Queen.
So like this
She
was a
is.
great
She is
scene.
crazy.
Yeah, you have to be crazy if like it kind of was like settled, right? Like I thought like it kind of felt like, oh, okay, like Viserys actually like kind of controlled the room after Aegon said that. It was like, oh, like this is over. Like for sure over. But then she just went crazy.
Yeah.
She did go mad. So I will say Viserys like no way, shape, or form in control of his own house. But he did like after struggling for 10 minutes, finally did seem like to simmer down. But then she just got crazy.
Yeah. She's like, that is insufficient as the king is walking out. And like, she is
It was a
not
long pause.
afraid. Like, she is unafraid to like stand up to Viserys in front of everybody and disrespect him. And Viserys is like, thinks he's like, he lays the hammer down saying, everyone go to bed. And she's just like, no, I get final say. And then you're right. Rhaenyra's comments are hitting deep because, and then you have Alicent basically admitting that like she hates Rhaenyra to her face and she's jealous of her and that she gets what she wants and she's spoiled like to her face. And so at that point, I was like, okay, like this is what we're looking for. This could help lead to war. And it's just fascinating that she took out the knife to try and take like the eye herself. Like that is what a Mad Queen would do. But I do want to talk about really quickly Otto Hightower afterwards in the one-on-one conversation with Allison. And this is
That was
why
the most shocking thing of the episode.
when Otto says he's like proud of Allison, the way she behaved, it was shocking. I didn't actually like that at all because like it's very unlike Otto. Like Otto is very much like keep in control of your emotions. Okay, make your calculated decisions and don't be over emotional. But she's like over emotional and she's gonna be looked at as like the Mad Queen throughout the realm. Yet he's like, yeah, good stuff, right? I haven't seen that side of you. I didn't like that.
I think I initially didn't like it, but now I'm like coming around to it. I just wish they kind of perceived it differently, where they went all in on I liked it, or like Otto's like I liked it. They should have done like, well, you shouldn't have done that. But hindsight, looking forward now, it's like I'm glad I saw that side of you. So they should have done something like that, like a mixed
I guess.
balance. But they really just wanted to hit home. Like for the last time we saw Otto was him leaving Westeros, no longer being the hand, and telling Allison to get Aegon ready to rule. And like it's either you or Rhaenyra. Like there's only one or the other, and you got to be
Yep.
able to protect. And clearly, Allison now is ready to do whatever it takes, and he finally saw that. So the showrunners here just clearly wanted to show the audience, like, yeah, she made that turn and really stressed that Otto's like, yeah, that it confirms like we're ready to go. Versus like if it was like what should have been, or in reality, what it would be, which is like that balance that I spoke to. It's like that would make it like more of a I don't know for the audience. But now we know because they
That
went
was
so hard that one way.
and that was the last interaction those two characters had. The last time they saw each other, it was like him following up that conversation. Like, remember what we talked about last time? Guess what? You followed through. Aside from Aegon, who's just like a drunk idiot. As we wrap up here, I do want to give a prediction for the future. I do want to talk about one particular character, and it's Corlys. Corlys is someone I think we have to watch out for because I think he's going to be an absolute monster during this wartime period. He's basically mourning the loss of two children at this point. He has the conversation with Rhaenys earlier in the episode where he's talking about it doesn't matter about the blood. All that matters in this world when it comes back to like the histories and what people look back on, it's name. And I think the fact that he's lost two of his kids, right? So like there's like apparently no successor to his kingdom. He is just going to be so vengeful. And I think he's going to be just an absolute maniac on the battlefield and on Dragonback. I think he's just going to be a menace because the one thing he had going was the name, right? The successors to the throne, Rhaenyra, Sir Laenor, their kids. They're going to be Velaryons into Targaryens. And now, like, that's gone. Okay? So I think he's being a menace, right? Any predictions you have going into the next episode?
I like that take. It's all about legacy for him, and his legacy's gone. Like he has two granddaughters, but he doesn't have any. Like his heir is gone, like to his own kingdom is gone. So it's a tough time for him. Very tough time. Next episode in particular, I don't think this is my hot take. I think it's gonna be the worst episode of the season. Next episode.
How can you tell that?
So this is going to be a
I'm
letdown
down.
spot. This is a letdown spot. I think it's going to be focused on the time jump one last time, focused on the kids again, right? And they like this episode had it all. Like it had it all. We finally got the Damon Rhaenyra got together, then the marriage, the spin at the end, the fake death, the Alicent Rhaenyra rivalry, Otto coming back, the funeral, dragon, Aemon gets a dragon, the kids. This had it all. Next episode's a letdown spot.
Okay, I can see that happening too because episode 9 is usually the battle sequence at the end of a season, and 10 is like the aftermath and the repercussions and consequences of said battle. So I can see it being a letdown spot, but people are loving this episode. I thought there were some flaws to it. It had some exciting moments, but like still, like I still liked episode. Well, I think it was 5, the wedding. I still like that episode better than I like this episode. Like the kid stuff was just a little too annoying for me, and I didn't like how they took Otto's character a little bit.
This had a 9.7 on IMDb.
This episode,
I saw like at 8 o'clock, like
Wow.
an hour before this started. Checked Twitter and I saw a 9.7,
Yeah.
and I was
That's
like,
insane.
what? And then I saw another thing. It was Ned Stark going through the pages and be like, black hair to all of Rhaenyra's kids. And I was
Uh-huh.
just like, damn, like I forget like Game of Thrones kind of like spoiled some of the things that's happened in House of the Dragon that we've already seen, but it's just been so long since I've seen Game of Thrones and such little details like that that I just forget.
So yeah, it's a 9.6 right now
Okay,
on
so it dropped
IMDb.
point 0.1. But it doesn't that's crazy to me. Like that is crazy.
Do you know what the second highest one is?
Episode I'm gonna not say episode 5. I'm gonna say episode 2.
8.4. It's one of the lower ones. But 9.0 is episode 5.
All right, so they did give it to 5. I was
Yeah.
trying to
So maybe I'm just
understand.
being too overly critical, but like, yeah, like this show is fire. This show is freaking good, right? And that's what we got for episode 7 for House of the Dragon. Make sure you're tuning into the feed this week. We have some interesting shows coming up for you. We're doing Blonde. Blonde's coming up, right? Ana de Armas, NC-17, Andrew Dominic, Netflix. Make sure you watch it so you can get at least watch a portion of it. I don't know if I can recommend the entire 3-hour movie, to be honest, because to be honest, I didn't finish it myself because for reasons I'll disclose later. So follow the feed. We got that coming. We got She-Hulk. I mean, I'm not going to say Daredevil's going to be in it because like I feel like I'm lying to you if I say that. I will be up at 3 a.m. watching, as I always have been on Thursday morning. And if he's in it, we'll talk about it. He's not, we'll talk about it briefly, And then going beyond that, Andor, make sure if you haven't checked out our latest episode on Andor and the latest episode 4 reactions, stay tuned for that. Episode 5 coming out this week. Cannot wait. Great series. All right. Make sure you're following us on all our social channels at the Drive-In Pod for Twitter and Instagram. And then make sure if you're watching on YouTube here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure, give it a like, comment. We always like to reply back. Okay. Rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening as well. So for Ricky Flicks and Dr. Rowe, that's going to do it for episode 153. Until next time, we will smell ya.